Grave Reviews, this is Chris.
Have you tracked the children?
There's no children here. It's not safe for them.
This is Alan, and Chris is right. Grave Reviews is intended for mature audiences. Your discretion is advised. Grave Reviews presents Thursday Night Frights.
How are you doing, Chris?
I'm doing well. We're almost through the week. Not that it really matters for us that work 6 and 7 days a week, but it's the principle of the weekend coming. So
It sure is. It sure is.
we're close.
And we are close. And tonight we are once again streaming on X. We are streaming on what's the name of it again?
X, Twitch.
There you go. Wow. And of course YouTube. So if you want to join the live stream and talk to us here on the show, please jump over to YouTube and join the chat and see us in the chat room. We're a little delayed right now on receiving our actual comments and so forth, but that's okay. That'll happen from time to time and generally catch us right up to it. That all being said, Chris, I'm with you. It has been a long week. It's been a long few weeks, but the weekend is quickly approaching, and I'm very happy about that. And this week we got to see kind of a fun one. This movie kind of came out of left field for me. I didn't know anything about it. I just saw the album or the album cover. That too.
It had a good soundtrack to it.
I just saw the art and I was really taken in by it. What about you? Is this something you just stumbled across, or did you know about it?
Yeah, it was. I mean, it's one of those things where it kind of it went under the radar when it was coming out. I think it was. I probably heard about it because it was one of those film festival movies, and then it waited a year before it came back out in theaters, and everybody got to see it. So it definitely went under the radar. 2018, it came out. So it was one of those stumble upon, flipping through channels or something on one of the streaming services I had, and it was not what I expected.
No,
When I heard dark comedy, horror comedy, it's Nick Cage, and we were coming off of Willy's Wonderland, kind of stuff that it could go anywhere. So, yeah, this one came out of left field. Some wild ultra violence and
Nick
Cage, dude, like the cagiest of the cage.
There's one scene in this, and I will get there, but there's one scene in this movie that I'm like, oh my god, this is why Nick Cage is as my co-host likes to say, a national treasure. I absolutely loved it. And it's really funny because there's nothing special about it. There's nothing different about it, but the concept itself is very intriguing. And
only a couple things have touched on this type of concept. You had The Cell. Stephen King kind of touched in on it, where it's some sort of signal somehow. There's a hard reset with the human race, and this is one that wasn't ventured upon. Some weird thing we share with it, pigs, in which we snuff out the piglets.
As the doctor, right, told us about in the movie. Some of the guest appearances in this movie just threw me for a loop as well. So basically, if you haven't seen Mom and Dad, it is as Chris said, it is a horror comedy. It's a good one. It's a lot of fun. It's dark.
Very dark. So there's real dark stuff in there.
The comedy in this is a lot to me. I think it's a lot akin to the comedy in like Zombieland, right?
Yeah.
It's not necessarily it's more satire type comedy to me. That's the way I see it. But I really like it. And I like I love the way the film opens. That dry, cold open, as you will, where where they're just showing the mom in traffic and she's bebopping along and you hear some
Yeah.
static on the
Yeah,
radio.
this
She just
radio
stops.
goes fuzzy.
She just stops, puts her car in park, and gets out of the car. What you don't realize is that she gets out of the car and walks away from it as a train is coming down the
Yeah,
tracks.
right on the tracks. And she's just like la
Yep.
la la la, walking away.
And
And
her child in the car.
yeah, and
You
we're introduced to this weird family metric of Brenton and Kendall, very strained marriage. It's one of those things. If you're a parent, you're a hardworking individual, do it for the family. You can relate to all of this. It's the midlife crisis.
yeah.
It's the you know doing everything you do for the family, and you don't feel like you have something yourself. You want to relive the early days of,
Mhm.
and not all of us got to do donuts in a Trans Am with a topless woman on our lap,
With
but something close.
the top off with the top off.
Yeah, yeah,
Donut.
T top in it. Just wow, he was having a great time.
He was.
So, yeah, so you could relate to that whole a strained thing when it comes to a marriage, especially when you're a working couple, or at the very least you're working and you're trying to support a family.
And I love the way that this was written here because it felt very um it's funny. You would think this doesn't work, but the beginning of the movie, the dialogue between Nick Cage, between his wife, the maid, and the kids all feels very blah and mundane, even though the subject matter may not have been. And it almost felt robotic in nature, like and I think and then as the movie went on, everything ramped up with it. And I think they did that to solidify what we were talking about, which was or what you were just mentioning, which is the mundane life, right?
Yep. Yep.
And they used that and did it quite well.
Yeah,
Uh,
juxtapose that with where we go with the hyper violence that comes with this movie.
Absolutely.
Not too long into it either, where you're like, whoa.
Yep. Yep. And I love the fact that he's got the Trans Am from his high school years in the garage.
Yep.
And he's already said that his mom's, or his wife, Kendall, because Kendall's not even a real name.
Not
Uh,
even a real name.
Kendall, Kendall's trying to talk him into getting rid of it. He's like, this is my baby. Um,
Hmm.
and we've all had that kind of feeling when it comes to um, guys. All right, guys have had that feeling when it comes to cars or certain things. You're like, I can't get rid of that because if I do, I'm giving up. We would never say it out loud, but I'm giving up a piece of who
Right.
I am and
Right.
so forth. So, it was really cool. And then the son is Joshua.
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 Yep.
Uh,
Little Joshua.
you know, again, guys, you all know this. I'm not a fan of Kenny's. Joshua did a great job in this. He really did. Just annoying enough to be the kid brother without being so annoying that you were hoping that they would break through the door and get to him. Uh, right. Uh,
Right.
so, so, yeah, it was a lot of fun. The introduction where he hits his sister in the face with a pair of his dirty underwear. I was laughing. I mean, you had to because I mean, as a boy, you're like, yeah, I would have done that at some point in my life. But, you know, she's not Kendall. Kendall's the mom.
Carly. Yeah,
Car-
Carly. Carly.
Carly's trying to sneak out of the house. She's already been talking to her boyfriend on the phone. She's going to try to sneak out so they can meet up and go to the movies or whatever the case may be.
Right.
And she winds up stealing money out of her mom's purse, which is a pretty big plot point.
Right.
Uh, and then they all basically start to disperse for the day,
Right.
right? And Joshua's staying at home with the maid and the maid's daughter. And you're hearing tidbits on the news about how this isn't an isolated report and how, kind of like,
Yeah.
I think so, really, it's like zombie, right?
Yeah. You're paying attention to that background because there's some story back there. They're laying down what's happening. That
And,
oh, you find out that woman like left the kid on the tracks, and there she is just walking off like, well, got bread, milk, eggs, and
yeah,
dropped the kid off at the train station.
And the thing that I liked about it was the fact that you hear the news go, and allegedly it may have been possibly kinda his mom if and
Right.
they don't ever wanna say, especially early on, they're not wanna say, "It's the parents that are doing this."
Right, it just seems weird, and you get the reaction you would think that you get out of the reaction from Selma Blair, uh, Kendall, where she's just like, "Oh my god, that's terrible," and I love the part where she's trying to drive in. You relate to that when your kids are getting older and you're trying
Yeah,
to connect with them, and you're not cool enough for them anymore. You're no
never.
longer cool. And you're trying to get that middle ground. You're trying to talk, and that exasperation sometimes you feel when your kids are trying to rebel. That's what they
Whatever,
do.
whatever.
Yeah, whatever. And how much that word pisses me off.
Oh, me too. She was like, "Do you know how angry that makes me?" I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, I do."
Yeah.
As a parent, I know exactly how
Like
angry.
whatever. Yeah.
And so the last thing we also know is that at some point in time later that night, um, uh, mom and dad are coming over for dinner,
Right.
and
Brent's
sister,
parents.
right, and sister's having a baby, right?
Hmm.
So this is again real life stuff
Yeah,
that's
it's stuff
going on.
that's going on a normal family day, dropping the kid off to school, one's staying home with the housekeeper, dad's off to his corporate BS job, and he notices like when he's leaving for work, that whole moment of like nobody else is leaving, it seems like everybody else is kind of staying in, and then he has these flashbacks again of hopping in the T-tops and with no tops and flooring it and doing donuts. I mean, he spends a little too much time with the daydreaming of the what what was.
Exactly, and as he's, leaving and as, um I'm sorry, I apologize, everybody, sorry about that. As he's leaving, Carly's at school, and you start to see the static thing starting to happen on TVs and radios,
Yeah.
and the TV in the house, um, starts to get static, and as Josh was running around and playing and so forth, um, he has to find refuge because the babysitter starts to murder her own daughter with a meat
With the
tenderizer.
meat pen, yeah, and
They don't really show anything, but
no,
you hear the whack, whack,
yeah, you can
and
see the change in her where all of a sudden she's like, "Where's that little bitch?" And that turn, and then you just assume that she's not just tenderizing the chicken anymore. That
that's
she's a
he's ten
sometimes you just gotta go full cage on your kids, I guess.
I especially when they say whatever.
Come on, I mean, you're pushing buttons there. We probably shouldn't push.
Uh,
And then the school part is awesome. Like,
yes,
the teacher's trying to have this talk and their phone rings and it's like, send so and so to the office. And then the phone rings and send so and so to the office. And that's weird. And then all of a sudden, all these family members are lining up at the gates and the cops are showing up because what's going on? Like,
and so it's like, I loved it. I don't know if you caught it or not, but as they hit the courtyard, the parents hit the court, or the not the parents, excuse me, the teachers hit the
mhm,
courtyard with all the students, and you hear one of them go, "Well, this isn't a fire drill."
right.
Right? It's like, why are they all here?
Yeah, what's going on? The fire drill's running inside, the cops are here, you've got all this going on, and of course, Carly and her ding dong friend that scored some Molly
I
or whatever.
the only really, she's the only actress in this movie that I did not like. I could not stop.
Right. So,
And
yeah, and they're gonna take off, and but you have that moment where the parents are screaming for the kids, and the kids are like, "What do we do? What do we do?" Until one of the kids makes a run for it and gets over the fence, and he was the first. She
it's
gets him with the keys, like, "Oh no, like this is what's happening. Like this isn't the faculty. This isn't." Like Red Dawn, Wolverines, like, this is a school thing where the parents are coming so they can pick up the kids because they've had enough of their shit.
yes, and I love the fact that, the parents start to climb the fence, they're running after 'em, and when they hit the football field and they show the different parents chasing down their own kids, and, which cracked me up because you had the big fat dad, now chasing down and tackling his own his
Right, he ran a 4.54, 4:40 there.
and the one dad runs by and he looks down, sees the garbage can, just scoops the bag out and just over his daughter's.
Yeah, and we're talking brutal. Like, if you don't like kids losing it, well, that's all this movie is about.
Yeah, this whole movie's about kids losing it. So yeah,
It's crazy, and the stuff starts going on. The daughter's boyfriend goes home, and his dad, who comes off as the drunk,
right.
maybe he's on the sauce again, and he's like, "Dad, you're on the sauce again." And Dad's like, "No, just had enough of you," but without saying anything.
Yeah, and I loved also when he's walking in the house, he asked the neighbor like, "Where's her daughter at?" Oh, she's inside,
Hmm.
inside. And then
That weird calmness.
yeah, and dad, breaks the bottle of whatever he was drinking, and the kid's like, picks it up. The kid's like, "You've had enough of that." And he breaks it, and winds up cutting him with it, and the son kills his dad mistakenly. It's the only real adult kill I think that we
He
see.
kind of does it to himself. He trips and falls and
Yeah, and the
gets
bottle
himself.
gets
And
great, great scene.
whoa. And even as the father is going through the last moments, he's still trying to get him. He's still
Oh,
trying to get the kid.
and so that something's going on, and I love the fact that they never really tell you. I
No.
love the fact that it's still. I think that played into it, the whole thing very very well. So you're starting to hear the two girls finally get out of school. They go to her friend's house. This is the part that they got me every single time. Everything that's going on, they get in the house, and then when you saw the door opens, her friend comes in and she's giggling and laughing like and I'm like,
Yeah.
that's it. I don't
You
like her. She
No,
needs
she's
to
gotta
go.
go. She's gotta go. Like, she deserved it. Your
Yes.
friend is like, "Yo, did you just see what happened back at the school?" And she's like, "I need to smoke a joint."
Yeah, and you want
And the friend's like, get the go over here. Look at what's going on." And her friend's like, "I'm gonna finish smoking the joint."
to. I love the fact that at this point in time, Carly sits down and she's like flipping through the channels, and this is where we get to see Dr. Oz being interviewed on TV.
Right.
And
Yeah.
he's like, "Well, in pig populations, there's this thing called savaging where the moms will
Right.
just lay down on the babies," and the interviewer's going, "We're not pigs, we're
Pigs?
humans."
No, it's like pigs. And it's like, shut up, Dr. Oz.
It was a great little.
It's just like a good kind of like keep it in the moment that there's some way somehow they can kind of link it to some sort of psychological thing that's been seen before. So there's plausibility to the fact that some signal obviously went out on the TV airwaves, or
It,
and then the radio for that matter, because there's a possibility of it going through radio stations where you can hear that same staticky noise playing.
yeah, it's awesome, and so the her friend Janine, I think it is, goes upstairs, and no, it's not Janine. I'm sorry. Her friend goes upstairs, and her mom is up there crying, and she's like, "Oh, mom, are you okay?" And she looks
Right.
up, and next thing you know, she's strangling her daughter outright. And this is
Yeah.
what I love is because she goes up and she sneaks around the corner. She's like, "Oh my God." And she's like, "Oh, oh, oh," and she looks up and goes, "Oh, hi, sweetie.
Hey,
What?
kiddo.
Hey, kiddo, how you,
Yeah.
blah, blah." And then, oh,
Yeah, so this is directed just at their own children. Like,
exactly.
and it plays into because at this point we've gotten a couple of the flashbacks of, you know, the Joshua who, found something he tried to bring back from the dead. It didn't quite work out, and it was in his dad's Trans Am, smelled like death inside his dad's, beautiful high school car.
Yeah,
And you get these flashbacks that leads you to this whole thing of people feeling that midlife crisis that where I am right now with raising kids and going to work isn't where I wanted to be, and it's that back and forth, all while playing the soundtrack of nature nurture kind of songs. Like, you're getting this family vibe out of the music, and but it's playing off as like people tired of being the family life, and oh, by the way, there's something going on making them snap and kill their kids.
it really. I don't know how to describe it. I've been to this point in the movie. I'm in, right. I'm just like,
Oh, it's
great.
I
Uh,
can't wait because now we're gonna start to get Nick Cage, who we get a little taste of like he is not happy at anything. Like,
yeah,
hold my calls after he's probably sleeping, watching porn or something.
and you don't really know, but that's kind of what it says.
That's what kind of leans into.
And the boyfriend and the sister are going home to get Joshua. They want to get him out of the house and get him away, right?
Right.
So he's like, and you see he's watching the TV or
Mhm.
the computer, and you hear the static, and all of a sudden you see Nick Cage do the,
Oh, the rage.
and he just
Where?
gets up and leaves, right? And
Mhm.
mom is is mom at the hospital at this point? I
Yeah,
think.
at the hospital. This part was this part got me a bit.
Mhm.
I will say because I've been in the hospital room, both of my children, and what takes place in that hospital room was one of like cringy and dark stuff happening in there.
And
Like, whoa.
so we'll be very gentle in this part because I felt the exact same way Chris did. Um, Chris and I have talked about we're sick and tired of the baby zombie trope.
Right.
This was not that.
Hmm.
This was not.
No.
Now, keep in mind, the parents are, because of whatever reason, are being driven to kill their own child. So you've got a brand new newborn being laid on mom's chest, and mom's like loving it, and all of a sudden the static starts to play through the,
Yeah.
and they have to pry her off of the baby because she's giving it hugs way too tight.
Yeah, over and over, and it was just. And meanwhile, this is where Selma Blair like really takes off in her role here
Oh, she's so good at this.
because she's trying to explain like even where she's at in life, she's trying to explain to her sister, like that and it's a magic snap of fingers of love and what you would do in that moment when you lay eyes on your child and blah blah. And she's like building this all up, which makes this scene so much harder
It
because
does. It does. Oh,
and
so
the
good.
hospital is like give us the baby because she's holding on to the baby and they're like you're related to the baby, give us the baby, we don't know what's going on.
Yeah, because they don't know. They know that the parents are killing children. They don't know if other relatives are doing the same thing. And,
Yeah,
and I love the way the hospital was left. Is when you see the nursery and all the dads are jumbled up together, and they're like,
not for the same reason I was in that picture kind of set like
you can see that look on her face, like,
yeah, they're
you know,
ready to come through the glass over these tiny little bundles of joy.
crazy, crazy.
Very nuts. And you really think that excuse me, that Kendall still has it together because she's immediately like seeing all of this and losing it and needing, oh my God, my kids. Like I've got to get my kids.
Yeah,
And you're following her home, going like, well, did she really get zapped? I mean, yeah, there was some static in the hospital, but she was kind of talking through it. Like you don't
and,
know if
and
she was truly exposed.
and I love the fact that at this point on the radio, you finally hear someone say, parents, you are going to want to. Your every instinct you have is going to be to go home, gather your children up, take care of them. Do not do that. Stay away from your children.
Right.
That kind of thing. And of course, what's she gonna do? She's like, hell no, I'm gonna go take care of my babies, right?
Yeah.
Nick Cage gets home just before she does, and he
Hmm.
sees that Damon is in his house with his daughter.
The boyfriend that he already doesn't approve of and wants to have his daughter have nothing to do with because he's a junior and she's a sophomore.
And this has one of the greatest lines in the movie here, because Nick Cage is going, he's like, "Sir, you don't understand." He goes, "Oh, I understand completely. I was young once, and it wasn't that long ago. But I didn't have the things that you got kids have." And I'm paraphrasing here, but he says, with internet porn, he goes, "and needle beads." and
I had
I'm
to buy magazines.
rolling. I was laughing so hard because I was like, "Where is this coming
This is
from?"
actually a conversation I've had not too long ago with people who are like, remember, like, there was some stuff that you had to not only get magazines, but get some weird magazines to see. And now it's like, like you accidentally see it if you freaking type the wrong shit into Google and you don't have the safety on right.
What's funny is I remember me and a buddy of mine, we would like walk to the store or walk down to the Gold Star to get a cheese coney and play Pac-Man or something.
Yep.
And you'd be walking by the road and you'd look down and there'd be like an old, wet, dirty magazine. And we'd like very carefully peel those pages apart so we could
You'd
see
find
everything.
him in an abandoned house, and you're like, "This is gross."
When it's just the two of you around, you go, I wonder if we'll find some more.
Right? Yeah. Just
You know,
it was a very odd time in the 80s and 90s. There was porn in weird places.
it was.
At the very least, it was behind the counter at the gas station, and if the clerk was cool, he'd let you get one or two.
Yeah, or what it was the guy who was like, "I can't take this home," so he threw it out the window.
Right.
And
Right. You just find it.
some lucky, 15-year-old went, "Woohoo, look what I got."
Ooh, I found a penthouse for him.
Yep. So anyway, when there's a part of this scene that as a guy who studied martial arts and used to collect kung fu films, and all that
Mm,
stuff, when he hits the ground, right, and Nick Cage is sitting on his back, and you see him go,
I love this part.
palms him in the back of the head and
Flat
drop
palm.
head
Flat.
into the floor. I was like, that's
I love that move, dude.
yeah,
You're with my kid, and it's just one of those, and he gets that moment, whew, and the clunk. Oh, shit. Oh no.
you're like, oh, that hurt, that hurt. And then he looks up and sees his kid standing there and loses
Yeah,
it.
28 days later, kind of rage overtakes them, and this is great. Him running after the kids through the house. They're trying to get away, and like he steps on the damn dump truck that sends him flying into the kitchen, knocking himself
It said at
goofy.
one point in time, we need to separate the adult area from the kid area. I'm going to fall and hurt myself on the kids' toys. It's
Right. Yep. Kids are running away. Kids get down to the basement, kind of lock the doors, and are gonna hide away down there. And
and the mom gets an idea, and she runs out and grabs the Sawzall.
oh, when she comes home first, where
I'm
you still don't even know, like, is she at that weirdness going on? And it lays into this is one of my favorite scenes, and I'll say it's one of the best Nick Cage moments.
oh, it is.
Is the kids go down in the basement and they see a pool table just utterly destroyed,
Uh-huh.
and you get that flashback of you know Nick Cage's character Brent has this thing ordered, spends time putting this thing painstakingly together, getting the levelers just right with the shims, getting everything perfect, steaming the felt on, and having Kendall come downstairs and say, "You bought a pool table." This man just spent hours putting this piece of art together, and
Oh,
it's like,
it's
"You got a
like,
pool table," and he just loses his shit. You call this a man cave? you know? And it's that he goes crazy. I love the part where it's like, "But and he's taking a sledgehammer to it and smashing. You put your left foot in and you put your right foot in and you work it the fuck out."
he does the hokey pokey. I love that. Love it. Uh, so uh, the kids are down there. They lock the door. The parents are upstairs, and you don't know if mom's lost or not. And she comes and she's leaning against the door. She's like, "Honey, are you there?" And Joshua, of course, I mean, it's like, "Mommy," and shut, you know.
Right, right.
and she's like, "Oh, come on, come open the door, baby. Just open the you open this door." And then when he does it, Nick Cage does the most Nick Cage thing I've
Oh,
ever seen in my life, and it
so
was
funny.
30 seconds of absolute gloriously fun. And what does he say, Chris?
Oh, he's like, "Your motherfucking mother." His joke did open the door. So motherfuckers, open the motherfucking. And I had to rewind that part like two, three times because it's just so funny how he delivers the calling the kids MFers. That was the highlight to that little speech that they're losing her shit. And Selma Blair as Kendall, she becomes the main character of this movie where
She
she's
does.
the wife that does the exercise and the Pilates, and he's the working man that does everything and working on cars and stuff. And she's like, "What have you tried to do to get in there?" "Oh, for fuck's sake, I just got to do it all myself."
Uh-huh.
Goes out to the toolbox, whaps together the sawzall, knows how to put the blade in the thing, and comes out and he's like, "That's not gonna work. It's called a sawzall because it saws all."
which is replayed a couple of times in the movie, and to a wonderful degree. I
But
love
then
that.
she continues to hit the door like you would think somebody who's never used one has hit the door because it's all over the place. You're not holding it steady to get it to plunge in.
You've never used one. That's the funny part.
Oh,
Um,
so good.
what I love about this scene is, both he and she are having issues.
Yeah.
Mom and dad are having issues. They bond. They
Over
really
fiaside.
fall in love over trying to kill their kids, and it's
They
really
have the best loving relationship of like, I'll get that. Thank you. I love you.
and it's a weird position that they're using at this point, because it's literally like they're doing the one thing that no parent would ever understand, ever being able to do, and
Mhm.
that is what's drawing them together. It's really weird. And
Very
of
strange.
course, Kendall comes up with the idea.
Right.
She has him pull the stove out. They hook a garden hose up to the gas line. I love the fact that not only did she put it in the window, but she used the shovel and threw the dirt up to collapse it all in. And they're going to gas their kids out.
This is also before like the whole scene of she's trying to get through the door with the sawzall and little Joshua. Now meanwhile, Brent is trying to find the gun under the bed
Oh,
and
yeah.
finds out there's no gun under the bed because it's gone. And you hear the shots, and it's Joshua, the little kid, blasting mom through the door in the arm. And he comes out. The exchange they have where she just berates him like I said, how far into this midlife crisis did you go? Like, you even got the gun? Well, it was locked up. What was the combination? Joshua's birthday. Fuck.
Oh, it's like he immediately knew. Oh, it was, again, great, great, great,
Yeah,
great
great moment. Yeah,
moment.
and they're arguing and bonding while he's trying to like wrap her up in the gauze and pour alcohol over it.
And all that. Oh, yeah, very good. So
Yeah,
they're absolutely positively at this point in time trying to basically smoke the kids out
yeah.
using natural gas. And I love it also. He goes, how are we going to know it's working? And she goes, oh, well, you'll hear him coughing. When you hear him coughing, we'll get it open. Well, at that point in time, Carly, she discovers, and this is another part of the movie that threw me. This pulled me out. um, I liked it, but I think it was done incorrectly, and I'll explain why. She finds a ventilation shaft, right? And she gets in and she looks up, sees that it goes up, and it gives them a way out of the basement. I love that idea. I love the fact that she finds the matches, and she rigs the door up so that when they open the door, it's going to ignite the matches. This is
Right.
wonderful, well done. Um, they start coughing, mom and dad side. Now we're gonna take the sawzall. We're gonna get in.
Hmm.
Uh, Carly and Joshua get into the vent, and they crawl sideways
To the attic
and then pull the attic trap open. That's
from
where
from the basement.
so they didn't. They should have showed them kind of like fighting their way up or
Just
whatever.
straight up would have worked.
Yeah, just something like that. But yeah, the way they filmed it, I was just like, oh, come on.
Yeah, a little silly.
But let's face it, the
Hey,
movie's
you know what? Maybe we were supposed to look at it like that. We don't
maybe
know.
weird, maybe
No.
maybe it's just Mission Impossible type moment. It just, I don't
Right.
know.
But it
Anyway,
was funny that it's that whole they're coughing and then can't wait to open the door and then he's like
oh, it's like,
click and you see the flames and it has that moment of oh
oh,
shit
yeah,
and he gets sent flying back. Well, good thing he also tells Kendall like stand back.
oh, so good, so good.
It's funny. And then of course the kids are too noisy trying to get out of the attic. They could have hung out up there maybe and have confused the hell out of mom and dad, but of course they had to climb down out of the attic and she makes the noise and at some point you get a ding dong at the door while they're trying to kill each other.
No, not yet, not yet.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
Kendall's upstairs, right?
Hmm.
And Damon.
Oh, yeah, Damon wakes up.
tries to help her, and he takes a fall from that upstairs balcony. He ain't getting up again. I don't know if you noticed or not, but when the way he fell, stuntman, I'm sure it was,
Mm.
caught his head on that chair as he was coming down.
Oh, yeah, he went down
Oh,
hard.
he went down hard. I was literally like going, "Oh, I don't know who felt like that, but man, that had to hurt." Uh,
Again, some great back and forth between Mom and Carly because it looks like Mom is trying to, like, shake herself of it, but then, like, "Oh, but this is a really good hammer I got in my hand to smash some raisins, so never mind."
I love it. I love it when she picks up the meat tenderizer, which is the same thing that
Yeah,
the used to kill her, the maid's daughter, and the butcher knife, and she's like,
yeah.
"Yeah, yeah, we'll use the tenderizer." So this is they're in the kitchen. They've got the kids cornered, and
It's
and
all gonna and then
has
bing bong.
wait a minute, Nick Cage has the saws on. He's saws. Oh,
Sawzall.
and then you hear ding dong.
Because and this is a great I was trying to get a picture of it. It's a great moment with he's got like Fruit Loops stuck to the side of his head because he blows up through the pantry. And like he's covered in stuff, but he's got the saws on his hand, and this like glazed look in his eye,
Yep.
but he's happy as hell at the same time and completely in love with his wife.
It was just all the
So
emotions
weird.
running.
Very goofy. But there's the doorbell, and it's one of those, oh crap, your mom and dad were coming today. Oh, that was today? Oh, like oh great, like we gotta open the door. And it's the best moment because yep, you would think this would probably happen.
When he
Mom
almost
and dad are looking to do a little fiaside themselves with good old Brent.
and it's really funny because he opens the door and he's like, "This is really a bad time," and all of a sudden he gets like a face full of. I was cracking
Face
up.
full of mace, dad's poking him with a little pocket knife.
Yep.
You killed me. You killed me. I didn't even get your guts. Because
Quit
dad's a Vietnam vet who loves talking about killing Charlie with his own knife.
he's like, "Quit crying, you baby."
And the fact that it's like he probably stabs him a couple dozen times
Uh-huh.
uh, from beginning to end, where it's just constantly poking holes in Nick Cage
Oh,
because they have this moment where it looks like mom's trying to come out of it, but she doesn't.
no.
And it's meanwhile Nick Cage's or Brent's mom and dad are trying to kill him.
Hold on.
Kendall decides that she's trying to stop mom from killing her husband.
Mom
They have a great mother-in-law moment where
your
Kendall's not even a real name.
son.
You got Lance Henriksen, who is now Nick Cage's dad, chasing Nick Cage around the house, poking holes in him, telling him how much, like, I've fought wars. What have you done?
She goes, "You're not good enough for my son, and Kendall's not even a real name." I fell out. I was like, "Oh, that's so good."
Oh, so they're just battling each other out back and forth. Like I said, at the one point where Nick Cage is clawing himself into the Trans Am, like howling, "Ooh,"
Like,
as his dad's just stabbing him in the hamstring.
oh, oh, it's so good. And of course, Joshua is smart at this point. He goes out the driver's door as Nick's coming in the passenger window because Nick's dad's still stabbing him in the thighs,
Right.
and Nick reaches up, turns the car on, and like throttles the gas through the door. Which is awesome because he goes through the door right as mom-in-law gets pushed into the driveway. The car
Yeah.
swings, takes her out, and you literally see her
Good
upside
clipper. I love that moment. The slow motion where Nick Cage is looking out the windshield, his mom's
down. Good. So good.
great moment.
Then he hits the
Love it.
other car and dad goes through the windshield. So they're both dead. And then you see Kendall turn around on Carly. She's got the hammer. She rears back like this. And what does she do? She gets a shovel in the face.
Yeah. Da- yeah. Damon has had enough.
Yeah,
He took another good lick, but that boy keeps on ticking.
yes.
Gets
IMAX.
up and knocks mom out. The next moment we're seeing mom and dad are tied to a lolly column in the basement. with wires and whatever else they could get around them.
Tape, wires. So
And they're huddled in a corner, like, what are we doing? What are we doing? And oh my God, honey, are you okay? Like, please, you got to let us go. Everything's okay now. And they're like, we don't believe you.
yeah, and I love the way that the parents are sitting there, and you can tell that they're trying to hide the fact that they're still in this
Right.
hysteria, this anger, and she tells the kids that she loves them, and we love you too, mommy, and Carly is like, I'm sorry I stole from you, mom, I'm sorry, and Nick's like, we love you too, we love you so much, but sometimes we just want to, bam, the titles start to roll,
Yeah.
right? Really good ending.
Good ending. Yeah. We don't need closure in this. This was, I think any attempt to try to normalize the ending would have kind of taken away from the movie. It made it a
I
fun right to the end.
I agree. And it literally was one of those situations where it was like, okay, we're not going to tell you what caused the pandemic.
Hmm.
We're not going to tell you w- what the solution is. None of that. We're going to just let it go as is.
We left it plausible with how we've explained things, and that's all it really needed to be. Because, I mean, honestly, the amount of parents that succeeded in doing what they were doing, the world's changed regardless. So it really doesn't matter. Like, that
The
where do
one
we go from here?
the one thing that we heard at one point in the movie, which I thought was real neat, was someone said, if someone was trying to wipe out humanity, this would be an easy way to do it. Have them
Hmm.
just kill off their children, then there is no next generation.
Right.
And I
Right.
was, oh, that's a pretty bold
And
statement.
it opens it up to it could be anything, some sort of attack
Mm.
from an adversarial nation or something like that. But again, they gave us enough to where it was plausible. And we did. Nick Cage was said to have said that this was like one of his favorite movies in like a decade of doing. And we really got a treat of Nick Cage in this. I thought he was the way he goes from 0 to 100 is great because he's waking up in his office to, like, hold all the calls. What about your wife? Especially her. To
Yeah,
looking at the kids in the thing and going to rage. Um,
I can
it was
honestly
great going
say
back and forth.
I feel like from this movie on, if we're doing reviews and someone flips out the movie, we're going to go, and there's the Cage moment, right? Because
Right.
that's
That was a moment, dude. Like
the Cage
he
moment.
the when your mother so motherfucker. That's That was great. I mean, there's only one other person that can throw that word around with that kind of style,
Oh,
and
yeah.
that's Sam Jackson.
Yeah.
I didn't know Nick Cage had that in him, so
I think
I'm
that
down.
that's actually two different sides of the same coin, the way they do it.
Right. It was just it's how you pronounce those, those last letters really have a pull on you. So
I agree. I agree. So that being said, Chris, this um uh, one being a miserable dredge that made you absolutely angry that you watched it. 10 being the everybody needs to see this. It transcends time. It is more than anyone should ever want in a Nick Cage movie.
right.
5 hits all the marks. Where would you put this movie?
For me, this was a really fun movie. I going into it, I just knew mom and dad. Like I remember when I actually sat down to watch it the first time a couple years ago. I remember like the parents chasing through the school, so I knew it was going to be parents are trying to kill the kids. I knew the basic premise of it.
Hmm.
I was kind of blown away by not only the level of and amount of violence in this movie.
Yeah,
I did not think it was going to be like that. Seeing Nick Cage and Selma Blair on the as our main um, antagonists. But also the performances. I think Selma Blair really, especially at the end of this movie, she really makes a great character. You fall in love with the character. I really did, just because she's like, she seems like she could be the scatterbrain, like she's just the mom,
Hmm.
but then under cool, just straight pressure, just like, step away.
I
I'll
got
get the
that.
tools. I got this. I got the ideas. It's you're the dumbass that gets this. You're the dumbass that got me shot. Like,
I
um, yeah, I thought it was great. Great portrayal of the characters. It was fun, man. This and right off the bat, we get the boob coming from the Trans Am. So there's a
have,
half a point. She gets an 8.5 from me. I enjoyed this movie.
I will say, as much as I loved Willy's Wonderland, I said to you towards the end of the broadcast last week
Hmm.
that after my third watching of it, it became a little stale to me.
Right.
I loved it. Don't get me wrong. I
Oh, no, no,
loved
no.
the movie. But this one, after my third time watching, I was still laughing at the jokes. I was still along for the ride. So I'm with you. This movie, it's not a 10 by any means because it
No.
definitely had its problems, but
It's a
because
$4 million movie, I think it was
yeah,
too. So,
yeah, which
for a
is
$4 million movie, we got right.
right. Um, yeah, I'm with you. I would say 8.5. And if this were the um you had would your rating be how out of 10 people that how many of them would you tell? I'd tell 10, 8.5 people, "Hey, man, you gotta see this," right?
Yeah, definitely. I know 8.5 of my 10 friends that this is the dark comedy you kind of want to see. I
Hey,
mean, there are the hospital scene is rough for me, and it's just because I've been in that situation. But that darkness really gets that horror end of it to where
yep,
there is no limits. Like, this isn't, like, you can sweet talk as a kid, you can sweet talk your way out of this. Like, mom and dad want your ass.
yeah, and not only that, but also that type of scene makes the lighthearted comedy scenes that come after it even that
Oh
more
yeah.
funny
It,
because it pulls you out of that dark space. So, is this the top 10 movie on our list? I don't know if it's a top 10.
I don't think so.
I would say that, in my opinion, though, um, boy,
Bring up the shit list over on my end.
I'm thinking for myself personally that this might be a top 20 movie for me.
This is a top 20 movie for me. I was gonna I didn't know
I
if
did,
I'd have to fight with you on this one or not. But I going into this, I really enjoyed this movie. It's right up there. It's outside the top 10 for me.
yeah,
Um, uh, but I think when we get from 11 to 20 there, we have some good caliber movies that kind of fits this right in there, of the same vein of rewatchability,
mhm,
of enjoying, of something you would tell a friend to go watch. Like, if you're into dark humor, this is it. You're into Nick Cage being over the top acting. Um, this is it. There's a lot of good bonuses to this movie for it being a $4 million movie. We're not talking extravaganza. We're not talking. We don't need the special effects. We needed a decent story, and I think they kept us right on there.
good. I will tell you that while I struggle to put it in front of Zombievers, I'm thinking that 19 right in front of They Live maybe where this
I
one
was
is.
gonna say right anywhere in that from between Dog Soldiers and Zombievers is fine with me. So
Yep.
yeah, we're good. We're
It,
it's in that same caliber of all of those movies. I kind of agree with the same
yep.
feeling.
It's not Train to Busan,
It's definitely better than Sharknado.
but it's better than Sharknado, even though I know that there's someone who will be yelling at me later for saying that.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking that Mom and Dad's probably a number 19. Now, it's not gonna stay in the top 20 because 'cause we're gonna be watching some better movies.
Oh, we've got some good ones planned too.
Got some good ones coming up, yeah. As a matter of fact, we got a couple coming up that might fight for some places in the top 10, you know?
We got a vampire movie. I know we're coming up. A couple vampire movies, but one of them I think definitely is going to be making some headway. That was put out there by the Talking Dead.
Yeah, so we have, one coming up, here, in about 3 weeks that, someone in our room tonight has been asking us to look at, so I'm looking forward to covering that. Chris, what are we gonna be watching next week, my friend?
Next week we are going to see some more of the last of the Marching with Cage. as we're creeping up on the end of March. This is a very recent movie. Again, it's you hire Nick Cage, you get Nick Cage, and in this movie, Renfield, you get some Nick Cage.
Absolutely. Renfield can be watched on Prime. It is a rental, but it's a very inexpensive rental. We would ask you that if you get a chance to watch it, please do. We'd love to have your all's opinion on on that movie.
Definitely.
And there's some mixed reviews on this one. There are people who absolutely love it. There are people who absolutely hate it. I personally have not seen it all. I've seen bits and pieces of it, so I'm looking forward to seeing the whole movie. And talking about Nick Cage and we're so with it being the last, excuse me, with it being the last of the month next week, we're going to be doing our last Nick Cage movie, and then the following week we're going to be watching a little known werewolf movie called Uncaged to pull us out of the Nick Cage, and that
Exactly.
will continue on. So
March, we have been marching in that cage, and we will be uncaged come April.
that being said, Chris, is there anything you'd like to tell our
No, we
people?
enjoy. Thank you for stopping in. If you're here live with us in the Talking Dead, we appreciate you. If you listen to us later on audio, we appreciate you as well. We just ask that maybe stop by Thursday night, Frights, 8 p.m. Eastern. You can come check us out live on YouTube and become part of the Talking Dead. We acknowledge all of our new listeners when we come in here. We love you guys. We love interacting with you. And that being said, I put the link down there in the chat here to our bio link at bio.link/graverev, where you can get the links to all of our socials, our Insta, our X, our TikTok. I've got some, of course, there's some horror type names in there, where the bell is tolling and we're twitching. We've got the Twitch up there now. There's also an email in there. If you can go in there, you can email us with your questions, your suggestions. You can hit us up on his DM on any of those socials with the same as well. If you got an idea, you got a good movie coming, we definitely take advice. As you're saying, we've got one coming up very soon that we'll be doing. I can't wait. I'm going to be hanging out with some of the Talking Dead this weekend. Going to be meeting up with Darren. We're going to see some 35 millimeter John Carpenter triple feature.
Wish I lived close enough to come with you. I would
Mm,
love.
Absolutely. So, but yeah, we want to see you. We want to hear from you. And until we do, till next week, stay spooky, friends.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, if you would please hit the like button, slash that sub if you are not subscribed, and leave us a comment. I know it sounds like a lot, but look, you ready? Watch. See the keyboard? That's all it takes to leave a comment, and it adds a lot of help to us to get out there in the algorithm space for other horror fans like yourselves. So please do that. And as we say, until we meet again next week when we're talking about Renfield, ladies and gentlemen, as we always say, we love you, and may all your nightmares be groovy. Have a great night, everybody. We appreciate you.
See you guys.